sweating kind of as the glasses that I think contribute to it. And I feel like Fantasy just looks really smooth and comfortable when he plays StarCraft, which everybody has their style, but I think that's important. All right, so again, this pylon is the marking pylon out a little bit too far, so Fantasy is going to be able to take that out. They did mention now would be close to the timing for Fantasy to fly over a command center to the his top left protected island expansion, so I'd assume he's going to do that fairly soon. I think I actually saw him building the commands. Oh, yeah, okay, there we go. So you have to drop out a SCV to mine those minerals so that you can land the command center. So he's going to use all of these to try to mine that out real quick, and then, of course, he's going to be able to drop the command center down. Something interesting about StarCraft 2 that Steve noted when we were playing is when you land buildings. There's two interesting things relating to StarCraft 2 in this. When you land buildings on top of your own units, your units automatically move out of the way. I know, thank God. Yes, they move out of the way for the buildings so that you can land. So you don't have to worry about going to land a building and then worrying about trying to micro all your units out of the way. They will land. Fantasy, you see macroing up big time here with factories. And also you did see the expansion here going up as well. So mineral onlys, so certainly important, but not as much as far as not having gas goes. What I was going to mention, so that's one interesting thing about StarCraft 2. Land a building and your units will move out of the way. A more interesting thing about StarCraft 2 is the fact that your own units will move out of the way if they are in the path of units trying to get through them. So if you have some really dumb Goliaths, which you don't have in StarCraft 2, but if you had them and you're trying to move them through, let's say, a group of Marines, the Marines would move out of the way, let the Goliaths through, and then move back to their original position. So we didn't really get a lot of chance to test it out, and we were talking with Cyanic Reaver about it on the podcast on SC2GG.com. So check that out, certainly. Fantasy might lose this shuttle, but no, great job dropping the Dragoon and picking it up right away. He does have shuttle speed. Did I say Fantasy? I meant KaL. He does have Fantasy speed up. Oh my gosh, I can't even talk. This is what happens when you cast games and it's almost 12:45. I would recommend against this. Maybe this is why Moletrap declined the double on this, because he was like, dude, I'm tired. In fact, that is why he declined the double. Moletrap's awesome, but I wouldn't have probably, if he asked me to do it, I probably would have said no, but here I am doing it on my own. Fantastic. And things are getting delirious here. Alright, so KaL certainly getting that expansion later than Fantasy. Fantasy will have the advantage in that respect. KaL going up for a drop of his own. I don't know if this is a Reaver drop. I don't remember seeing the support, but it is. Oh, and just getting two there. And here come the tanks. But he is going to get one more before being able to get away. Oh, and this expansion, but Fantasy just so good, responding perfectly with his own tanks there. And the Dragoon is just taking all the shots. I would say that was fairly a success. He is probably going to lose the shuttle here. And he might try to just suicide in. And KaL with a dud at the end. That really could have made it all worth it, although he certainly got enough and kept Fantasy on his toes here. At this point, to be honest, the game can still go any way. I mean, both players are playing so carefully and just kind of sending out one little harassment and one little feeler here. And, certainly, I mean, if any player would be in the lead, you know what? I mean, I guess I could say Fantasy because, I mean, both players at this point are equal on bases, and the Terran equal on bases is generally better than the opponent with the same amount of bases. Certainly both players are macroing well, though. They're very similar in food count, and we do see a nice push by Fantasy, bringing up and sieging his tanks. Going to be able to take out a lot of Dragoons. This time, finally, with a Reaver, a higher tech unit. Oh my gosh, a higher tech unit that is going to now die because he's not microing. KaL failing at microing. You know, this probably is why he doesn't tend to use higher tech units, because he is not very good at microing, and then he ends up losing them, as we saw there with the Reaver. Although I've seen some decent basic shuttle Reaver micro from KaL. Anything that gets more advanced within a battle seems to kind of fail him, and certainly I don't know if they're pointing out a lack of turrets there. I'm not quite sure what they're saying. But KaL kind of just doing the same thing every map, which is allowing Fantasy to kind of do the same thing every map, which is expand and push out with very large armies and just kind of clash against each other. Now, certainly KaL did win the last game, I felt, just by sheer force and Fantasy kind of not being able to move out. But Fantasy has moved out now, and KaL could try to do a counterattack here. This could actually be really painful if KaL decides to go all the way around, which he looks like he might be leaning towards, or not. Or he might be preparing for some sort of counterattack, some sort of Terran sandwich here with a bad metallic taste in it. But hey, it's still got tomatoes and lettuce, so I'll eat it, possibly with some bacon. I don't know what's going to happen here, but we are going to see the counterattack going. That was a terrible joke about sandwiches. Now I'm hungry. We are going to see, it looks like he's going to be able to fend this off with all those zealots coming in here and a counterattack. Oh my gosh! And going into Fantasy's main here, going to lose a lot of SCVs here. KaL with a bold move coming up, and then obviously Fantasy going into his base. We're going to see some base trade effectively going on here. Oh, and a drop in the back there. So KaL actually showing some good multitasking skill, and the fact that he can do a drop plus a 3-front attack, or 2-front attack plus a drop in the back. But Fantasy has such a huge steel ball, just balls of steel rolling into KaL's front there, and that is going to be tough to clean up. KaL certainly is going to be able to clean up. Oh, he does actually, he has been saving these. He could actually do some sort of recall behind, or he could try to rush into the zealots. I think a recall might be a better idea. That way he can bomb some of the zealots and the tanks that are also set up as siege. I'm assuming that's what we're going to see because Fantasy doesn't have any sort of science vessel. I think a recall will be the best idea. Fantasy with a hidden expansion at the bottom. Dark Templars coming out, going to be able to get some pre-hits, and when those Dark Templars get seen by Fantasy, they're also going to take down the tanks around them with a splash. Oh my gosh! Fantasy does not see any of these DTs. What are you doing, Fantasy? This could cost you the game. You're being distracted with cleaning up the Dragoon Force. He's going to come back and see that almost all of his tanks are gone. Oh my gosh, that is just terrible, and it looks like he was able to take them out, and he now has smartly mined, but a lot of Dark Templars going in, going to get mined, but oh, that's a lot of Dark Templars coming out there. Fantasy, certainly all he has to do is scan, but that is I've never seen, I mean, these Dark Templars are like late-game, last-ditch Dark Templars, but they're not. They're mid-game Dark Templars, and they're doing a lot of damage. Fantasy is taking a lot of damage from that. And this very well could be what KaL needs. KaL was able to put up a great offensive into the secondary. If KaL can make another push, and if he's able to push and take out that expansion completely, then Fantasy is going to be almost all but gone here, despite a hidden expansion. And if we can get a mind drag, no, don't A-move, no, you got to move them all in. Okay. Oh my gosh, and another Dark Templar. I don't even know how that got there, if it was dropped. But right now things are looking in favor of KaL, despite both players being able to hold up their army. KaL has the superior economy by far right now, and Fantasy, you know, is having to kind of struggle his way through this, despite having a fairly strong presence on the map. And that is one thing Fantasy has the consolation, if I were Super Daniel Man from GOM TV, is that Fantasy has position on the map and has been able to kind of hold back this main push, but I feel like he's not going to be able to hold that back for long just with a whole lot of vultures, because KaL is pushing very strong right now, and excuse me, Fantasy is looking at simply a 1 attack upgrade, which is